Hello everyone and welcome to the sixth video of the Android Exploitation course by Attify. So in the previous video we had a look at how to set up the pentest environment or how to configure the Android virtual devices using both the ADD bundle as well as the Genymotion. So in this particular video we'll just quickly have a look at some of the security architecture features of Android, right? So Android actually relies on a two-tier security model which takes advantage of both the Linux-based as well as the Android-based security implementations. So both the Linux security implementation and the Android security implementation work together at the same time and help provide an overall security architecture for the Android device. Also, due to the Linux security model, we have a privilege separation model which we'll see in just few minutes. Apart from that, the Linux permission model provides proper access to the Android resources and files by setting up the required permissions so that a particular data stored by a particular application is available to only that application and not to the other applications by default. That we have a permission model which is enforced by the Android security implementation. So whenever you download and install an application from the Google Play Store, during the time of installation, you might have seen a screen which shows that this particular application will have these many different permissions. So this application can access internet, can make calls, can send SMSs and so on. So that are the implementation of the Android permission model. Also, each of the application in the Android ecosystem will have its unique UID and GID, right? So we'll have a look at how the unique user IDs are defined in the Android devices. So in order to connect to Genymotion, which is running on my system over here. So if you need to connect to Genymotion running on your host system from the Android environment or the Android VM which is there in the training, you actually need to connect to this particular IP using the Android debug bridge or using the ADB, right? So in my case the IP is 192.168.56.101, right? So let's quickly have a look at what all devices are connected to my computer using ADB devices. So this particular command will show me a list of all the different devices or all the different virtual devices which are connected to my system. So currently there are no devices attached. So let's quickly go ahead and type in ADB connect and the IP, so 192.168.56.101 in order to connect to my Genymotion device, right? So now my VM is connected to the Genymotion Android device, and now if I type in ADB devices, it will actually show me that this particular device is now connected. Now in order to get access to the file system, so we'll type in ADB shell, which will give us a shell access to the Android device. So we'll simply type in ADB shell, and now we are inside the Android device. So once you get the root Android, we're inside the Android device. Also, if we type in an ID, we get a UID and GID of 00. That means we are currently running as root, right? So let's quickly have a look at all the different processes that are running in my Android device. So we'll type in ps. So all the basic Linux commands which you have been working in the past will actually work on the Android ecosystem as well. So if you type in ps, we'll get a list of all the running processes in my Android device at this present moment. So once I hit ps, I get a list of all the different processes, and if I scroll down, I see all these different applications like the calendar application, the WhatsApp application, the CSIP simple application, and so on. So if you notice, like let's say for this particular application, the com.3banana.notes, which is a notes application in my device. So this application has a user ID of u0 underscore a61, right? So also if we go to the location where all the data files are stored of this particular application, So we'll go to cd slash data slash the package name of the application, that is com.3banana.nodes. And if we do an ls over here, so we notice that all the folders, such as the databases, the files, the shared preferences, are all owned by the user ID of U0A61 and group ID of U0A61. Even inside the folders, let's say we go inside the databases folder, we see that all the files are owned by this particular UID and GID, right? So this is the security feature implemented by the Linux security model, right? So it also helps applications to secure their application data from the other applications, right? So each of the application is assigned to a unique UID, and in some cases two applications or more than one applications could even have the same UID. So that typically depends on if both the applications are signed by the same developer certificate and the developer has mentioned that these two applications will have to run within the same UID. So that is basically required in order to share data effectively between those two applications which has been created by the same developer. So the applications could belong to multiple GIDs depending on the permissions needed by the application. So we'll get to this part later on how a single application can belong to multiple group IDs depending on what all permissions the application is asking for. Also, there are some useful files such as slash data slash system slash packages.xml. So if we have a look at the slash data slash system slash packages.xml, we'll get information about all the different packages and the specific permissions, what they're asking for, and the other information. So let's go to slash data slash system, and if we notice over here, we have a packages.xml. So if we quickly cat this file, packages.xml, and if I scroll over here, so let's just scroll a bit more. Okay, so these are all the different applications that are present in my Android device. So let's choose an application such as this particular application, the jp.co.omronsoft.openwnn. So it says the package name and where the original APK is installed on the device. Along with that, we have some additional libraries that the application might be using, some other flags, FT, IT, UT, the version of the application, the user ID, and so on. Right. So let's just grep for com.3banana.notes. Right. So here we get the 3banana.notes application. Also, if you look over here, let's say for this particular application, the com.wso2mobile.mdm, you have this particular package name, and along with that you have these many different permissions that the application is asking for, right? So this is how you can quickly analyze an application and what all different permissions the application is asking for using the packages.xml file stored at this particular location, right? Also, the permission to group mappings are located at slash etc slash permission slash platform.xml. So let's quickly have a look at slash etc slash permissions slash platform.xml, this one, right? So if we cat the platform.xml, we see that these are the different permissions assigned to a particular group ID, right? So let's say we have this particular permission android.permission.netadmin, and this is a group with the name netadmin. So whatever application will ask for this permission will automatically map the application to this group as well. So that's how if an application asks for multiple permissions, it will also get assigned to multiple groups as well, right? So this is how you can analyze application and its permissions, as well as what is the user ID and what is the group ID of that particular application. So that's all for this video. In the next video, we'll go a bit deeper into the Android file system and analyzing applications. So I hope you liked the video, and if you have any comments or feedbacks, just drop me a mail at adi@attify.com, or you could also check out the training section at attify.com/trainings. Thanks a lot for watching the video. See you in the next video.